All right, I think we're live. We are live,
Yay.
everybody. I am so excited to welcome you to Modern Movement Maker community. My name is Amy Brooks, and this is my friend Jane, and she is going to share a little bit about herself, and I want to share a little bit about what Modern Movement Makers is. If you have not seen what we're doing over here, let me introduce myself. So I am a modern movement maker, and we are modern movement makers. We put movement to mission and create waves of inspired action, of love and compassion for healing and growth in the world around us. That's it. And we are basically hope dealers. We want to bring more hope into this world, and we do that in very different ways. We all have such unique stories. And I'm so excited for you to meet Jane today, because Jane and I actually, I'm here. Welcome to my home. Jane is in her home. And we actually are, we met, I'm in Michigan and Jane is in Washington, and Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
And we met actually in Michigan at church, and now we're into, I'm still in Michigan and she's in Washington now, and it's just so incredible how we got connected, Jane, and I'm so thrilled to just have people meet you in this community. And for those of you watching, we want to know where you're from. So please put in the comments below if you're watching, and let us know where you're from. We would love to meet you and be able to show Jane some love. And you can visit modernmovementmaker.com. You can also visit us on Facebook and Instagram. And it's been a ride. It's been an awesome ride. And I'm excited to make some ripples today with you. So Jane, tell us a little bit about your life.
Well, Amy, first of all, thanks for having me. I feel so honored when you asked me, and I'm so glad that you're doing this, Modern Movement Makers, because I remember having those conversations with you in the summer, and I just feel so inspired that you put it into action. So I'm happy to be here with you this morning. So I live in Seattle. We moved here in June of 2019, and I'm a stay-at-home mom of 2 kids right now. I have a first grader and a preschooler. So my daughter right now is in a hybrid schedule. She's in school now, and my son, who's in first grade, is in remote school, and he's upstairs. It's just kind of crazy how quickly they adjusted at that age. So, I want to say in September, I was kind of like, oh my goodness, I don't know how I'm going to survive the school year when I have to be right next to him and managing everything. But it was probably a few weeks, and then, he was kind of off on his own. So, so I want to say, I don't know that it was my intent to be a stay-at-home mom for this long, because until we moved to Washington State in 2019, I was a full-time working mom and just full-time working woman. I worked for 6 years in local TV news, and then so I was reporting and anchoring, and then after that, it was after the birth of my daughter, I decided to do kind of a career transition, and I worked in communications, corporate communications for a health system in the Ann Arbor area. So I did that for about 3 years. And when my husband had the opportunity to move to Washington State for his job, I decided at that time I would take a break and get our bearings in a new state, another state where we had no family around to kind of lean on for support. And then the pandemic hit in like February, March. March was when we went into lockdown. And so I've been home with the kids since March. And it's kind of crazy to believe that we're coming around on a year.
Yeah. And I just am so thankful for you, Jane, because you have just showed up in this whole pandemic situation so
Yeah.
well. And I'm so, I have two middle schoolers back there in their rooms, virtual learning as well. And I know that you have just been, your family was just such a blessing to us when you lived just down the street, not too far from us. And we love you guys so much. And you've been such a light to us while we've been in this area. So I'm saying hello to Sydney, Kiras, Monique are all watching right now. They say happy Friday. We have some people from California, some people from Michigan watching. Yeah, so it's really, really awesome that you're here. So I want to ask you another question. What purposeful movement? I mean, you have explained a little bit already, but so what moves your spirit though, Jane? Like what gets you just from at a level that maybe some might not see? I mean, you obviously have a passion for family and a passion for being a voice already. So I love that about you, but what moves you?
Oh, gosh, it's so much of this pandemic for me, Amy, has been getting kind of pulled to go through all the motions of what is necessary that day in that moment. And it's been more difficult, especially this past year in 2020, to really think about being purposeful
Mm,
in how I move, whether that's in my marriage or motherhood or in my church community or otherwise.
mhm,
But I think I have always enjoyed storytelling and telling people stories.
mhm,
And so some of the ways that I've been able to explore that is serving in my church by helping tell stories of some of the members and getting to interview them and learning about their Christian and spiritual walks. And then for me, it's a lot of reading.
mhm,
I like to read news, even though I'm not like working as a journalist, I still have to
mhm,
get my fix and know what's going on in the world around me.
mhm,
So things like that uh, move me. I also, Washington State is so beautiful. So we haven't been able to explore as much as we would have liked over the past year, but there's just so many areas just outside of Seattle
mhm,
where, like, an hour outside, hour drive, where you can really take in
mhm.
just the glory and the beauty of nature. And
Yeah,
it's just like, okay, take a pause, take a break, and take it all in
take
and
it.
just appreciate the beauty around us.
Mhm,
So for me, really, this past year, it's been trying to find that inspiration in the little things.
mhm.
And so much of what I take in has happened on a screen, right? Either online or on the phone or,
You're over today.
yeah,
Cheers.
yeah. So much of it has happened and has had to happen virtually.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can totally relate to some of the things you're saying too, because it was a lot of flat land when we moved to Michigan, and we had to get used to the snow, and we had to get used to just a much different area. And
Mhm.
there comes one of my virtual learners. Hi, are you going to be okay? All right. All right. Ray's coming out. So I can relate to what you're saying, just to appreciate where we are, appreciate the moments, and
Mhm.
finding the joy. And yeah, there's been hard days. I mean, it's okay. Like, it's okay. There's been some hard days. There's been a lot of great days too, and a lot of goodness that has come out of this. So tell us about that. How have you made your voice shine in the midst of all of this, or just been a light in your community or online?
Gosh, I think it's made me so much more intentional about who I connect with and how.
Mhm,
I think this pandemic has, in a way, has been such um, a set a good backdrop. And I just know collectively we're going through a lot of feelings, a lot of grief, dealing with loss. And before this pandemic, we didn't really have that, So when I'm checking in with friends and I say, hey, how are you? How have you been? We already know baseline what we're dealing with, right? Especially if they're a parent. And in that way, it's been so good to kind of more than superficially check in and connect with people, especially with people I normally may not have made the time to connect with. And I feel like this year I've reconnected with so many people, connected on a deeper level with a lot of people. I know I've always enjoyed our conversations, Amy, and it's just, gosh, it's made everything more intentional, more purposeful. And when my voice shines best is not when I'm addressing like a large group of people, but it's really kind of in the one-on-one or like the small group settings. So I, regularly communicate with my two best friends, one who's in LA, one who's in Arizona. One just had a pandemic baby. She got pregnant in March and then just had her.
We did a pandemic baby shower.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We hosted one for our friends here.
It's just so funny because I remember we were having a Zoom, just the three of us girls on a Friday night and, drinking wine. And she's like, oh my goodness, I could not have a third child. Like, boom, the next week she's like, I think I'm just got a positive test. And
wow.
Yeah.
We're at home a lot.
I know. So, that baby has brought so much joy to their family. It's just amazing how
happy babies.
Yes. Healthy, happy baby. Yeah.
Healthy. No, I said like the puppy, like the
puppy baby.
The quarantine puppies, like,
yes.
We didn't birth another child, but, or adopt a child, but we did welcome a puppy quarantine puppy.
Puppy baby. I know a lot of people who got
toddler in the
house. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's where my voice has shined most is in those relationships. Yeah.
Awesome. That's so awesome. Hi, Beth. Beth is watching too. So speaking of LA, or actually, California, I have met two friends online as well. And it's like, I've never met them. And I take that back. Beth and I have met in person, but I have not met this other person. And we have become really great friends just on social media through this community, and it's now they're here watching us right now, so they're getting to meet you. So my friend Jane, she's awesome. But yeah, it's just it's amazing to be able to spend time one-on-one, doing things that are important, right? Connecting is so important, and that can happen in so many different ways. And in some ways it's been, deeper than others. And it just shows that like you make priority for what you want to make priority for,
Yeah.
So awesome. So I know I'm just going to dive straight into another deep question. But so what have been your fears? I'm curious specifically because, the field, the working parent that you were, did you have any fears when you were in that position? Do you have any fears as a mom? How do you deal with them? Yeah.
I think my kind of overarching fear that's driven the recent decisions I've made is the fear of not being fully there for my kids, fully available for my family. And I think that's always held me back a little bit. So when I was working in news and my broadcast journalism career, I think I could have taken that to bigger and better things in the worldly sense.
Mhm.
But always in the back of my mind, I was asking the question, what does this mean for how I can show up as a mom and as
Mhm.
a wife? Because when we were living that life, my husband and I were tag teaming a lot. I was working kind of an odd shift
Mhm.
where on the weekends I was working the night shift. So I was working 3 to midnight or later.
Mhm.
And we had young kids then, like a toddler and a newborn.
Mhm.
And it always, I don't want to say it was my fear that kept me
Mhm.
back,
Okay.
but ultimately it was a decision that I had to make
Yeah.
where I kind of had to weigh what would be more beneficial
Mhm.
for the family and what's better for the common good. So,
Mhm.
um, a lot of how I think or what drives my decisions
Mhm.
are is based on that. What's the best win-win situation? What's best for the common good? If I continue to pursue my career, I can do that,
Mhm.
but will my kids suffer? Will my marriage suffer? Um, and for me, at the time that I decided to make a career transition, it didn't feel at all like a tough decision.
Mhm.
But maybe some of those regrets have reared their ugly heads
Mhm.
when I was feeling frustrated that I wasn't living to my fullest potential, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. So
That
when I'm seeing Ben, my husband, pursue his career dreams and aspirations, and sometimes I can feel myself asking those questions. What if that had been me?
right.
There was nothing telling us that it had to be him.
Right.
And there was nothing telling us that it it only had to be one of us that got to
Mhm.
do that.
Right.
But ultimately it was a decision that I made and that we made together,
Mhm.
that it was best for me or that I would be okay
Mhm.
um, transitioning out or pursuing something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I
I
think
feel you on so much. I totally feel you on that. I mean, for those of you that know a piece of our story, I mean, we felt called to move out of California and we didn't know what that was going to look like, but we just knew that we were supposed to pursue mission work outside of our home state. And my husband's a musician and so same thing. Like we had prayed about it. We had really just felt led to pursue this and to build relationships and grow as a people and as a family. And it was such an amazing, like it's been an amazing journey, and we have met incredible people such as yourself, and we've met just incredible people on this journey. So I can relate. You just take the next best step. You have to weigh out a lot of different your priorities, and make a
yeah,
decision. It's so true.
I'm gonna help my son really quickly and I'll be
Absolutely.
back.
I need to bring my dogs in because they're freezing now. We'll be here. Oh yes, Beth, I do too. I love connecting with like minded people as well. I'm going to ask her this when we get back. Come on. I'm bringing my dogs in. Here's our quarantine puppy that I was talking about, Chip. Well, this is Chip. Chip, say hi. This is Chip. So Chip and Charlie just came in. Here's Chip. This is
Aw,
my pandemic puppy right here. This is Chip.
he's
We named him
adorable.
Chip because we made so many chocolate chip cookies
Hmm.
in this whole season.
Oh, I'm craving chocolate chip cookies now.
So, so we were like, what are we going to name a chocolate golden doodle? We're going to name
I
him.
went through a huge Oreo phase in March and April, and I never eat Oreos.
Okay.
But I had to have the Costco Oreo, and I was eating half a sleeve a day.
We did some of that too, but I have to say, are you going to try the Lady Gaga Oreos? And Beth?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Okay. We need to try them.
Okay.
And Beth and Monique, I know they're in California right now. Beth is from the East Coast and Monique is from San Diego area. And they are both together now in California doing like a healing retreat. And they were talking about how they were eating some Oreos this weekend or had picked some up for the retreat.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw another friend in California try these Lady Gaga Oreos. They're like green on the inside or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know. I've got to pick them up this weekend.
I'll see if I can find them.
So funny. Okay. So is everything okay with Bennett?
Yes.
Okay, good. So don't mind it's like I have two sets of siblings. I've got the preteen and the teen back there, and then the same thing here. Oh man, I might have to put him back outside. What inspires you, Jane?
Oh my goodness. It can be anything from like a fun song to a really great book, podcast. I'm much more of a head person than I am like an emotion, like feeling person. So a lot of times it's like I love things that get me thinking, and a lot of times I can confuse my thoughts and thinking as feeling, if that makes sense.
It makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah, so I spend a lot of time in my head, and I love, one thing I love about this past year is having more time to slow down and read or listen to a podcast. And in a lot of ways, it feels like I have less time because I spend so much time at home and it's divided in so many ways.
Yeah. So
but it's a lot of passive time.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You mentioned that. I'd be curious to find out what books have inspired you, or what is there one that comes to mind?
Well, I've been doing a lot of like anti-racism reading. So I loved reading.
I'm going to put him outside really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, sorry.
No problem.
All right. Yes. Ooh, you said anti-racism?
Anti-racism reading. So I've read both fiction and nonfiction just to, because I just felt like I needed to shed a lot of beliefs or thoughts that I had internalized for so long and read about something that I had never intentionally thought about before. Because I may have always thought of myself as, not racist, but did I ever think of myself as anti-racist? I don't know. Oh, awesome.
Right now. And
are you enjoying it?
I am. I'm enjoying it a lot. Latasha Morrison, Be the Bridge. Really, really good.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really good, Jane. I appreciate, I know I've seen on your some of your social media, you've posted over the past several months, just a handful of things that shows that you are doing that work. And it's work that we must, it's imperative that we do that.
Yeah. And not taking for granted things in our reality, because we can change that. And I've always been a passive, I want to say mover, since we're modern movement makers. Like I've been kind of a passive mover in the world, experiencing things as they are and kind of not being resigned to things that I don't like or feel are not right, but accepting of it because that's our reality, but never really thinking that through learning or through thought that we can start to challenge those realities.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. You're so eloquent with your words. I love the way that you communicate a lot of what I'm thinking, but don't really
Mhm.
have the words to say it. So you are so
No,
good.
I feel the same way from, by listening and reading, thoughts from different people who inspire me. So there's just so many on social media. One who stands out because I can relate to her background is journalist Lisa Ling.
Mm,
And I think it's because one, I've been like a fan of hers ever since I was in middle school because she was one of the young reporters who
mhm.
reported for Channel One, and they would show it in our homeroom every morning. It was like a 10-minute broadcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's from LA. She lives in LA, and just I over the years, she's just become such a great advocate, and I think she's always been an advocate, and that always showed in her work
Mhm.
to share voices, share stories of groups that were marginalized or different people in like counterculture movements, like just helping bring more understanding.
Mhm.
And through her social media, following her on Instagram, and it's been through the pandemic, through the recent presidential election,
Mhm.
her voice has been one that's been so inspiring to me because she's a mom, she's Asian American, she's experiencing a lot of the things that
Mhm.
I am or have. And she shows me how she can, you know, be a professional woman, be
Mhm.
a journalist
Mhm.
who can objectively present stories and ideas, but also stay true to her beliefs and stay true to what she feels is right, calling out injustice or calling out um, yeah, things that we should all be
Mhm.
challenged to have an opinion about or have
Mhm.
a a stance on.
Yeah, that's so
So
good. I'll have to follow her, a little bit closer. I have
yeah.
following, Monique Melton. She has a podcast called, the Shine Together Podcast.
Hmm.
So I've been following her Instagram, and she's got classes. I really wanna take one of her classes, and she's done some artwork, recently, so you can purchase her artwork and things like that. So she's got a host of really great stuff too, but I'll definitely you said Lisa Lang or Lisa
Ling,
L-I?
Ling, Ling.
Okay,
Hmm.
perfect. Thank you for sharing that
Yeah,
with me.
yeah.
So, another question I'd love to ask is how do you experience support and love as you live out your story?
Hmm. So I that's making me think a little bit.
Well, we can go back to it too.
Yeah, no. Um,
I mean, it can be as simple as, like you mentioned, it sounds like you've experienced a lot of support from your husband,
Definitely.
and that's been. I know we love him too, and know that you guys are just such a great couple, and so I don't know. It could be as simple as that.
I mean, I do think my husband Ben is the person who gets the worst of me and has to carry, he gets the tough job of supporting me through everything. Um,
I would say the same of Matt.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
And I can only imagine it gets very tiresome and repetitive. Um, but he does that job really well. And it's been such a study in how we both need support
Mhm.
and experience it and how to support one another because it's different for the both of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I need support, um, I may voice it, but I
Mhm.
don't, it's difficult for me to ask for it.
Gotcha.
So for me, it comes out in forms of venting or feeling so exasperated or
Mm.
fatigued,
Mhm.
and me kind of unloading.
Mm. Mhm.
And what I need from him or what he's learned is that I respond best when he just listens,
Mm,
and he may have thoughts and ideas on how to resolve
gotcha.
that. And that's not necessarily what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I feel that there aren't any good practical solutions, and it only requires me to, have a perspective shift or approach things in a different way
Isn't that
or learn to just live through it. It's a lot of times,
true?
yeah,
Like when we work on ourselves, it ends up helping our spouses, you know, it's like we think, oh, if they just change. But no, it's like we have to change. And we have to put into practice the things that are going to make us be better selves so that we
yeah,
can help them be their best selves.
correct.
And so, yeah, I definitely can see that as well in our home.
Yeah.
So marriage is work,
It is
but work that's well worth it. Um, and so, yeah, I
And
we were very different people here. So
yeah, and I think just the nature of this pandemic, it's forced everybody to live as a unit. I
Mhm.
want to say in 2019, it was,
Awareness.
yeah. But pre-pandemic, maybe every weekend we were hanging out with 5 different families. So if Ben and I had a disagreement or we had a little you know, argument, it was we could kind of ignore it and cast it aside
Mm,
because like, oh, we're gonna hang out with friends,
yeah.
and then it kind of dissipated. When you're out with friends and other couples that you know and trust, and you it brings kind of a levity to your
Mhm,
situation,
mhm,
and then you go home and you realize this wasn't a big deal at all, or you know what, hey, they had that same problem,
mhm,
and they shared about it, and um, it kind of it it was helpful in that way to see people in person kind of dealing with the everyday stressors. This past year it's been a lot tougher because it's just you and your spouse in your house.
and the
And
children.
you had to figure it out. And the children.
We
And
love
the children,
our children.
yes. And the children have our
Oh,
children have gotten exponentially more attuned to how Ben and I are. They can tell right away if things aren't right between us.
mhm,
It was easier to mask that last year when we were, you know, doing all these activities or spending time outside, but when you're spending so much time indoors, not seeing other people, not having outside contact.
How many walks have you guys taken?
Oh my gosh,
So many walks.
so many walks. So
Yeah.
many walks, so many, I mean, in the summer, it was just living outside in the yard, and we had a tent out there,
Oh, nice.
and the boys would sleep in the tent, and yeah, just eating, playing, doing everything outside. Winter has got its own challenges. Granted, Seattle winter's nowhere
You're in Michigan.
near harsh as Michigan.
Yeah.
But
Although
this year,
again,
Amy, is the
knock on
first year.
knock on
Yeah,
wood, it's not been that bad so far.
it seems that way. And this year is the first year, Amy, that I'm wishing for snow. Like I'm begging for snow so that we can have a change of scenery outside.
Wow.
And I don't care about getting stuck in the house because we're stuck anyways.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's just get some snow, and the kids can play, build a snowman. We didn't get any. We got maybe a dusting of snow a few months ago.
Wow. Lots of rain though, right?
Lots of rain, but actually not even that much rain. I mean, this is a weird winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So besides like fresh air and
Yeah.
or anything, what gives you hope in the midst of your story?
So
I mean, like
so
what
many
gives you hope and what yeah, I just There's so much hope, and I think we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I do feel so much more hopeful this month, like in January, than I did even 2 months ago. I think I have more hope, a lot of hope in this new administration.
Mhm.
I was looking forward to the inauguration, and it gives me hope to see um, movement in taking control of this pandemic.
Mhm.
So my husband Ben, he got his vaccine. He'll get his second dose tomorrow. That gives me hope,
Mhm.
knowing that my kid, that's my distance learner right there. He's walking around with an iPad because sometimes he needs support.
Oh yeah. Does he need to have a
So,
question?
no, he's like doing his thing. Um, it gives me hope that they're going to go back to school, um, and really looking at the next generation
Mhm.
gives me so much hope, because in the summer when we were at the height of so many things, the pandemic, when cases were, you know, spiking everywhere and protests were erupting, and we were really, it it felt like just so hopeless,
Yeah.
right? And all I could see was everything wrong with the world that we're living in today.
Mhm.
And having those I mean, that forced me to have real conversations with my kids that I probably would have put off for several years
Yep.
had we not been living in that time.
Absolutely. Very important conversations to be having.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm reading news or watching news and it's all around them, and they're asking me questions, you're having to confront, you know, these really tough realities,
Mm-hmm.
and talking about like race for the first time in a very intentional way.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about how racism shows up, talking about how they may experience
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So, and knowing that we were having those conversations, knowing that these were things that they're not being sheltered from,
Right.
and knowing that they're starting to think about at such a young age on how to confront these issues and realities, and then seeing their resilience
Yes.
gave me so much hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah,
Children are teaching us much more than we think that they are. And
absolutely,
sometimes
absolutely.
we need to just stop and realize like the essence of a child and just the pure love that they have and they offer the world is just so beautiful. And if we just healed past the wounds that we had as children growing up, because really we're just like we are all worthy humans. We are worthy people to be loved, worthy of unconditional love. And I've found in my life that as I begin to heal the core of who I am, then my truth can come out and that gives me so much hope to be able to teach our children, to teach that there is hope and that we don't have to let the world define who we are,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
that is not who we are essentially. And as children just intuitively know that of course we should love everyone.
Hmm.
So it's really special.
Yeah, yeah.
By the way, Alice is watching or was watching. Alice.
Hi, Alice. Oh, I miss you, friend.
I miss you too, Alice. So a couple more questions and then we'll let
Yes.
you guys go. But this has just been like so amazing to spend some time together. And so can you share do you have a journaling practice that you've started up or been doing, or have you been meditating or praying? How have you been working all of that? Because I know that's been helpful for me here in this
Mhm.
house.
I've never, to be honest, been a journaler, even though I've tried many times to do it. I think my head, just my thoughts get in the way.
Mm.
And it sounds silly, but ever since I was a kid, when I thought about like, journaling and doing a diary, for me growing up, it was kind of a chore because it was something that we were taught as young kids that you should do.
Like for school?
Not for school, but like, I remember my mom telling me that that was an important practice. I went to Korean language school, and in the Korean culture, it's like you keep a journal,
Mhm.
starting what's the weather like today, and then you document everything. And so it almost felt like homework.
Yeah.
So I think when I went through that teen angst, I did, keep some thoughts on paper and stuff. But as an adult, I could never get into that journaling practice.
Yeah. So there's been a couple of, if you are interested, I could definitely help you with that. I have learned some very, very useful ways to help calm the squirrel brain or the the crazy, like
That's what I am. That's what my brain is. It's
right.
just like,
So, like brain dumping on paper and kind of moving through this process. I've learned a process that has been really, really helpful for me. Monique, I mentioned her earlier, she's been really helping with that, and Beth as well. And yeah, it's just I get what you're saying, how sometimes I mean, sometimes it'll feel like work, but it's like the work that's gonna, or at least for me, I've learned a lot more about myself by letting those thoughts from my head flow onto the paper and go there. Does that make sense? I don't know.
yes,
Mhm.
yes. Um,
Or typing. It doesn't have to be like writing. Although
right.
I like to write physically, but
hmm
type out their thoughts, and that's, use it like that. But yeah,
hmm hmm I think I think I need structure.
yeah,
And so I like having a prompt.
right, yeah,
It's harder for me to just, how
right.
do I take all of these thoughts
So
that I'm having as
yeah,
paper?
that's what this is. It's like there's 6 keys, and you walk through these specific steps. That's like a prompt through it. And it's really interesting to see what comes of it. Have you
That's
been
interesting.
praying or meditating
Yeah.
more in this whole situation, or dream, or
So definitely prayer and setting time aside to have that time. So usually mornings, after I get my first grader set up in his remote learning, then with my preschooler, with Ruby, she's home with me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I need like an hour in the morning after breakfast, after the morning rush. So
Mhm,
I give her iPad, and she knows what app to go to do her activities.
mhm,
And then that's my time to read my Bible and do my devotional, and then have some time for prayer.
mhm.
And if I don't have that, if I'm unable to kind of get that time, or if it's interrupted, I don't want to say it completely derails my day, but it does. I- It puts me like on a different path,
Mhm,
and it does set a different tone
mhm.
to my day. But I have to. It's so helpful for me to just breathe, read, pray,
Yeah,
to know that, okay, that's, I have this intention.
yeah, yeah. There's the Calm app that
Yeah.
that I know some people use that one. I've been using Insight Timer. It's been a game changer. It's like there's all kinds of different meditations for all different kinds of journeys. If because there could be people, in Modern Movement Makers is a community with people. The table is open. Um,
Mhm.
you know, there are lots of different ways that we can show love and compassion in the world. We personally share our faith in Jesus, and that's how our family, but not every family might have my same, faith practices. So that's why I like asking these questions, because I have friends that, are across the board, like grown up in all kinds of different traditions. So I think it's interesting to see like what kind of habits we put into our lives. And but yeah, it definitely, you would say you have a different kind of a day when these practices are in place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's just that act of, okay, I've given it to God,
Mhm.
because I know this is going to be another day,
Yeah, for sure.
same struggles, you
Yeah.
know. But
Yeah.
what's the one thing that I can change is, okay, I've sat down and said, like, okay, I know what my weaknesses are. I know where, like, the headspace that I always go to when things feel like they're falling apart, when I'm getting overwhelmed, when I'm getting stressed, and I feel like it's all on me,
Mm.
you know. So that's been helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are days where I do feel I'm just like dragged everywhere and pulled in all different directions, and then I'm not in the best
That's motherhood.
mindset. Yeah, when Ben comes home, he just already knows what kind of day that I had,
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious, so Modern Movement Makers is really, being from Southern California, I really learned a lot about uh, the waves and how the ebb and flow of the ocean. And it really, I think, has taught me a lot about life. And so that's why I like this question, because as we are modern movement makers in the world, in our spaces, in our homes, in our communities, in the world, um, what kind of waves or ripples are you taking right now to inspired action in this way? I can think of one, but I'll let you tell it.
Gosh, um, I think I'm very slow to act. I take a lot of time to process and think, and I think I've always been that way as a child too. And so a lot of times I think I have to have it all figured out before I take that first step. And I have to be completely ready, and I have to know all the possibilities of things not going right, to start to act.
Mhm.
So um, obviously, right now, as a mom and as a stay-at-home mom, I think the biggest influence I have is on my children.
Mhm.
And it is super important to me that they um, continue to be a reflection of uh, their environment and how they're being nurtured at home. And that, I feel like, is just feels to me like a huge responsibility. So, um, making sure that they are being loved on, that they're taken care of. Like you said, Amy, you look at the whole child and their whole health. Um, I do think this past year I've had to be a lot more attuned to that,
Mhm.
knowing what works for them, knowing what I can and cannot say to them, because and kind of being able to recognize when they're unwell,
Yeah.
especially if it's something that I've said or how I behaved.
Mhm.
Uh,
Taking
yeah,
ownership.
so
Whew.
yes, ownership of action
Mhm.
is so difficult, and I've had to do that so many times recently, and it truly is humbling,
Yeah.
because culturally and growing up, I that was very rare.
Mm.
And for me to have to do that today as a grown woman is difficult for me. It's difficult for me to ask forgiveness for my children, but it's important that they see that I do.
Right. Yeah, it's very important to forgive ourselves when we make mistakes, because we will. But also and they will make mistakes. That's part of growing. um, but yeah, it's definitely so true. And I think actually now that we're like talking this out, because I'm a verbal processor,
Mhm.
I would say like I have to like out loud say that my father modeled that for me growing up very well. And I can remember so many times, him asking for forgiveness for
Mhm.
something he's done, or encouraging forgiveness toward
Uh-huh.
my brother and I, that like, ask just trying to make amends and know that you may not have handled that right, but ask for forgiveness and and to forgive.
Yeah.
So I'm appreciative of that kind of modeling, because we can model those things for our children.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's super important. I've not been the best in doing that in my marriage, and I think I'm learning to get better at that. Um, and especially realizing that I'm much quicker to do that for my kids.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think you're right. Like our children feel a lot of the energy that we are really energetic people. And we can either have we can be very negative and
Yeah.
have negative like energy to us, or we can really uh make sure we're in tune with who we are and the kind of energy that we want to project, or that we can have the ability to. And so that really makes a difference. Like
Yes.
sometimes I'll have like calm music on. I'll ask Alexa to put calm music on. And it just changes like the vibe of the house or whatever. So
Yeah.
those things have been helpful. And then sometimes when we need to pump up the mood, we'll like have, try to do a dance party. Although middle schoolers,
Are they? Yeah.
uncool. I'm so uncool. Like, mom, you're so lame. Although you and your TikTok videos with all your kids dancing
Yeah.
and having a good time, like you're raising the vibe all the time. I love it. Oh, so I want to ask you what your name means. Did you? Sorry.
Yes, I think it means precious gift of God.
Ooh, I love that, Jane. You so
Yeah.
are.
Thank
You're
you.
amazing.
I took it for granted, all my life, really. Um, because, it's like plain Jane and,
Oh,
you know,
that was things that
yeah,
people say about you, though, right? Like, so you were internalizing those things, but that's
I think so. Yeah, I
yeah.
think I was internalizing it much more. And growing up, I always had a lot of Janes around me.
Mhm.
So to me, I just felt like another, you know, another another Jane or that
There,
that Jane.
there is
Yeah.
nothing like you, Jane. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you. You're
You're
too kind, Amy.
so grateful to be here with you today, to call you a friend, and to know that you are wanting to be a part of this community as well. And just you know, it's just been awesome. So if we're about at the top of the hour.
Yeah.
And I am just, like I said, so grateful for everyone who has popped on to watch. Um, or if you're catching the replay, please type replay, because we would love to hear any thoughts that you might have within this community. It will be over on Modern Movement Makers Facebook community page, public page. So feel free to engage with us there. We'll be there, and yeah, we'd love to hear from you. So what do you want to leave everyone with? How can people find you? All that.
So I just want to live. I just want to say I am learning. I'm learning every day to show up um, as a mom, as a wife, as an Asian American woman, as a, a citizen committed to improving my community, caring about my community. And there's just so much that I still have to do. Yeah,
That's
so much growing that I need to do.
a good reminder.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, and I'm still figuring out my purpose, and I think that's less about what my purpose is than how to be purposeful in
Mhm.
what I'm doing,
Right.
because I think situationally that will always change. And I don't want to spend my life, live my life looking for the next best thing or looking for what is it that I'm called to do. And instead, I think what I'm learning is um, how do I intentionally live out,
Mhm.
uh, you know, where I am now. So where I am now is a stay-at-home mom doing remote learning during a pandemic.
Mhm.
And how am I showing up for my family because they are um, the foremost in this time.
Right.
And yeah, and
I love
and
that
that
reminder of presence. Like what you just
yeah,
described was just be present and authentic with who you are. And that's what I love about you, Jane. Like you're just in it and you're present and you're there. And I'm sure that when you were in your career before, that you were in it and doing an amazing job there too. So um, I love that reminder. There's
thank
always
you.
something to learn and there's always something that we need to be doing in our present moment
Mhm.
and
Yes,
present circumstance.
absolutely.
Excuse me. So where can people find you on social media?
So
All of
I'm on Instagram, and it's Jane Park. Jane Park Hang. I kind of mashed together. My last name is Park. My husband's name is Kang, Kang. So it's Jane and then Parkang. And I'm the same name on TikTok, Jane Park Hang. And TikTok has been a great kind of creative, fun quarantine outlet
that.
for me. And it's kind of where I've found
Mhm.
my creative
Yeah.
voice or side and been able to explore and connect with people
Mm.
on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super fun platform. I know it's easy to get sucked in, but your content is incredible. So if you guys have not seen Jane yet, she's all about mom stuff and
Mhm.
some social justice stuff. She's just, I love following you there. It's so much fun. I love the content. You inspire me. Um,
Oh, thank you,
over
Amy.
so yeah, thank you for being here, and thank you
Thank
everybody
you.
showing up. Welcome to Modern Movement Makers. If you haven't got a chance yet, check out modernmovementmaker.com and feel free to message me for maybe you'll be on next and we can share in this space together. So thank you so much, Jane. Love
Thank
you
you,
so much.
Amy.
And tell the family hello for us.
I will.
And big hugs, quarantine, pandemic hugs.
Yes.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.